Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Barbara and I'm so happy that you're here today because today we are going to be talking about the books that I read in December. Yes, this is a very new setup. I'm sure you can see I've never been here before if you've been following me on this channel for, well, since beginning. I never had this setup because we went away for this weekend and I really thought I really wanted to film. So here we are. Here are some fish. Anyway, I just really wanted to film this video and make sure that I'm able to post this video and not to get way too behind from the beginning of the year. So here I decided to film even in this location. I made myself some tea, so if you want, go ahead and do that yourself as well. Pause the video, go make yourself some tea or beverage of choice, and let's get talking about the books. In December, I've read 7 books, and some of them were really good, some of them little less so. So I've got some stuff to say, but we'll get there. And so we start quite strong. We start with The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. This is the author of The Silent Patient, which was a huge success. Everybody loved this book. And then The Maidens came out and people were like, no, I don't think so. So many people hated it and I was like, I wanted to know why, because I really enjoyed Silent Patient. It wasn't a 5-star, but it was so good. So I was like, I want to know. So I read The Maidens and from the start, I was so much into it. Like I just had to know what's going on. I couldn't stop reading it. It was so good. And it never really stopped. Like, I enjoyed it so much. The entire time I felt like I need to read more and more to know what actually is going on. This is basically a thriller, I would say, thriller mystery about a woman who runs a group therapy. So she's a group therapist and her niece goes to school at Cambridge, I believe. And this is where a murder happens. And so this niece calls super distressed to the aunt, to the main character, like something horrible happened and you need to come and stuff like that. So she does come and she finds herself in the middle of the, not investigation, but she herself feels like she wants to know more, and she is a therapist, so she feels like she can try to, you know, uncover some of the secrets that are going on in between the students. There is this secret society group kind of called the Maidens, run by this really strange teacher. It's all really sketchy. And so she, I think she's Mariana, the therapist, she kind of tries to uncover what's happening and how these maidens come into play and what's going on, because the first woman that was murdered was part of the Maidens group. The twists are really good, I would say. Like you are led to believe one thing and then the ending is completely different. Even though I did, from the start, I had a little suspicion. So I'm not gonna say it was completely shock, but some things didn't add up the entire way. So I was like, but that doesn't really make sense. But then in the end, it's all explained. And I think it was done really well. I don't think it was a 5-star again. There is just something missing, just some, you know, just something little that I did not like. I don't know what it was. But overall, I had so much fun with it. It was very intriguing. It was very like suspenseful. Like you follow all these people and like watch them through the eyes of the therapist. There are some little things about the writing that I thought were a bit too unrealistic, but otherwise I really enjoyed it. And I think I gave that 4 stars actually. So it was really good read, I think. Second book I finished in December was Eldest by Christopher Paolini. This is the second book in the Inheritance Cycle series, first book being Eragon. I can't tell you much about it because, of course, it follows off of the happenings of the first book, so can't say much, but it is a YA high epic fantasy book where we follow Eragon and his dragon and how he learns about magic and how he improves himself as a dragon rider and everything, and he learns about the world and about the magic. And I have to say it's quite boring. I love the characters, I really like the plot or what's happening in general. I like the politics, I like how it's all set up, but it's just boring. Like I like the story, but it's boring. I don't know how to explain it. So this got 3.5 stars for me because I really enjoy it and I really want to know what's going on. And I'm now reading the 3rd book in the series, so it's not boring enough to keep me awake. But it's just, you know, it's not like, oh, I'm having the best time with this book, which I'm not. I think it's the writing style. Anyway, this was 3.5 stars. Next book I read was Dash and Lily's Book of Theirs by Rachel Cohn and David Levitan. I read this, or I listened to this on audiobook, on script. This is a YA romance set at Christmas, and we start with following Dash as he is in a bookstore and he finds this notebook from a girl named Lily, and she gives him some clues and dares to follow. And if he fulfills, then he ends up returning the notebook to her with some clues of his own to her. And so they kind of keep passing the notebook back and forth with some hints and some clues to follow and some dares and tasks to do. And then they exchange notebook through some people that they know that they will meet at those points. So they never meet actually, but they do, you know, kind of dares through this notebook. It's set in New York during Christmas, so I thought I'm gonna love it because I love Christmas in New York. But this book, there was nothing named specifically as Christmas in New York until about 90% of the book. Then we go visit, the ice rink at the Rockefeller Center or something. Until then, they just go to a club, they go to a bookstore, they go, like, not even a specific bookstore. There is no description of how beautiful it is, of how the decorations in nothing. Very disappointing. Actually, me who loves, like, that was the biggest tease for me, was Christmas in New York. This book is set at Christmas in New York. Nah, not worth it. And the characters themselves, yes, they are teenagers. They're like 17, 18 years old. Annoying so much. I couldn't deal with them, with either of them. Well, Dash was worse, of course. He was so, like, uptight and so arrogant about everything. He thought he was so smart while actually saying some stupid things. And it's just like, I understand teenagers are like that, but that was way too much for me. And I just couldn't deal with it. And I just hated everything about this book. There is one other plotline with the dog, and it just doesn't make sense. I understand it's for the entertainment values of the book. It's just the fiction book, but no, like, you still need to keep it somehow real, and this was not at all. So this one got about 2 stars. I don't rate it on Goodreads, so on Goodreads it got nothing, but for my personal rating, I think 2 stars. Even that seems like a lot. I don't remember liking anything about that book at all. So anyway, moving on. Hidden Pictures by Jason Recollet. This won last year's, 2022, Goodreads Choice Awards for horror. I wouldn't say it's a horror. It could be. Maybe if it's a movie, it could be a horror. The book itself was not so much, even though there were some points when I was absolutely terrified and I needed to keep the book, or like leave the book to read it during the day. I couldn't read it at night because I was so terrified, but that is probably more influenced by my horrible anxiety than by the book itself. So I don't think that's a objective review. But in Hidden Pictures, we follow Mallory Quinn, who gets a job as a babysitter at this really well-doing family, high middle class, I would say, family in US. So it's like Philadelphia, they are somewhere, New Jersey, I think. And the mother in the family, she works in like a clinic or like a establishment for helping addicts to, recover from their addiction. And this is relevant because our babysitter used to be an addict. And so this mother is very much like, yeah, we can give you a try because I know how it feels and I know how hard it is for people to find a job, and I really believe that you are doing really well with your recovery, and I want you to be a babysitter for our kid. So she's a babysitter to this kid called Teddy. He's 5 years old. Everything goes great. Mallory is doing fine, and the kid is really sweet. They get along very well. Everything's going great. But the kid starts to draw more and more disturbing pictures. So every day he goes kind of for like nap time, rest time, into his room, and he draws pictures. And he comes out and he draws some like really terrifying pictures. And she's like, what's going on? What is this? And he says, Anya told me to draw this, and this is Anya, and Anya is his like imaginary friend in his head. And he's like, I know she's not real, but Anya is telling me to draw this. And basically we follow the story of why he's drawing these pictures, and what's going on in the house, what are these pictures representing, because it like kind of relates to their daily life, but does not really. Like, it doesn't all add up, but somehow it does, so it's really creepy. And like, what's going on? We don't know, and I love this book so much. It was so much fun. It was a bit terrifying a little bit at one point, as I mentioned, but overall I thought it was so good. The ending I was not a big fan of. I did not like the ending very much. It was just too much things happening at once. It wasn't bad. It wasn't like, I hated it. But it just felt like too many things were happening all at once and just came kind of out of the blue. But, I mean, it wasn't like it would ruin the book for me. Overall, I really, really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I couldn't put it down. I read, I think, more than half of the book in one day, which never happens to me. And that in physical, I did not actually listen to it, which is when I'm able to read faster. But this was all physical, so I really, really enjoyed it. So this one got 4 stars. It was really good. And some of the things that people say how problematic it is, that it's racist and transphobic. With transphobic, I completely disagree. That's just only if you want to be like super, super, super duper picky. You can be like maybe a little bit, but I don't think that's what it was trying to do at all. And if we just keep open mind, that it wasn't transphobic at all. And racist, some people were complaining about one scene that was like super racist, and it's true, it was. But it was very much addressed and it was very much condoned. So I don't see a problem. So I gave this one 4 stars. Okay, next book I read was Keeping a Christmas Promise by Joe Thomas. I read this as a buddy read with Diana, with my friend. I bought this last year as, I was trying to get some cute Christmassy books, romance. This book looked great because here we follow a group of friends who go to Iceland to see the Northern Lights before Christmas season, before Christmas. As a bucket list, or as like kind of, it was the wish of their friend who recently passed away. So these 3 women decide to go to Iceland and to honor their friend, or like to do this thing that their friend always dreamed about doing, but unfortunately couldn't. I honestly don't know if there is anything nice to say about the book. The best thing about the book is the cover. The cover is beautiful. Otherwise, it was a mess. The writing was not good. The story, the plot, like I actually did like the plot and how, what it wanted to do, but the writing ruined everything. Like, it was not good at all. So we start basically the book kind of like a year before the main events of the book, where all of the friends are together. We don't even know where. I think they were in Spain, but I have no clue. It was some Spanish sounding name, I don't know. They were just, drinking and joking what they wanted to do, and they kind of said, each of them kind of jokingly said what they dreamed about doing. And the last thing in this prologue is there's one friend saying that she wants to go to Iceland to see Northern Lights. And that's the end of the prologue, and the next chapter starts as they are accommodating at a hotel in Iceland. And it just felt like I didn't get attached to the characters enough to care about what this friend wanted, to feel happy that they are doing this in honor of their friend. Like, it was not done at all well. It did not touch my emotions whatsoever. And they were very stupid. They are all there, like 40-year-olds or something, but they behave like 17-year-olds. It was just so annoying. They get accommodation in the hotel, and then they're like, okay, we're gonna go see Northern Lights, but it's a huge snowstorm. So they're like, okay, we need to go hunt the lights. You're on Iceland, in a country that you don't know. It's a terrible snowstorm. And you decide you're gonna go hunt Northern Lights. as if you can see northern lights when there is a snowstorm. Spoiler alert, you can't. Okay? Northern lights are above clouds. If there are clouds, you cannot see northern lights. Simple as that. Anyway, they decide in a huge snowstorm to go search for northern lights. Of course, they get stuck somewhere in the mountain, in the middle of nowhere. They get stuck, there is avalanche. Luckily though, get stuck very near a house where there is a man who lives on Iceland, and so he helps them, he saves them from the car, he kind of accommodates them because his house is big enough. He usually does accommodate like fishermen and stuff in the summer, so he has space for them, so he accommodates them there. And they are stuck. There is no signal that they could contact their family, friends, or whatever. There is no help, no services, no phone lines to call to the hotel. The electricity is out, so there is only candles that work. Nothing. Completely cut off. They are stuck there for about a week. And they were supposed to go to Iceland only for about 3 days. One of them has a fiance at home that they are supposed to get married 1 week later. Another one runs a restaurant just before Christmas, very busy. Another one has, I don't even know what she has, she's some husband, whatever, yada yada. And the only thing each of them are talking about is like, oh, my restaurant, what's gonna happen to my restaurant? I'm supposed to be back in the restaurant. Nobody talks about their family. Nobody talks about this one woman whose fiance is waiting for her to come home from this trip and marry her, and he can't reach her because there is no phone service, there is nothing. For a week he has no idea where she is, and she's not stressing about it at all. It's not mentioned whatsoever. And yeah, it's just so many things that did not work in this book, that were unrealistic, that would not happen, and so repetitive. They were talking about the same thing all the time. My restaurant, my husband, my restaurant, my husband, ooh, my wedding, my restaurant, my wedding. As annoying as I sound now, the book was 5 times as bad. Anyway, safe to say I will not be picking anything else up by this author. This was absolutely not good, and I just, yeah, we ended up hate reading it, honestly, because it was not good. It got like 1 star, even that is like for the idea and for the cover. Anyway, on a brighter note, Christmas Wishes at the Chocolate Shop by Jessica Redland. Now, after we really hated reading this one, we decided to do another buddy read together with Diana. So this was another buddy read of ours because we needed to read another cute, cozy romance during Christmas. So we picked this one. We already read one book by this author 2 years ago, I believe, and really loved it. So we kind of knew that we liked this author. So we gave it a try. And this one was not as good as the previous one I read by the author. Previously I read The Starry Skies Over the Chocolate Pot Cafe. That one I gave 5 stars, but that one was absolutely like written for me. This one was not. But here we follow Charlie, who just lost basically all her family. She never knew her mother, and she was raised by her grandparents, and her grandfather died, I think, about 2 years ago, and now recently her grandmother died as well. So we kind of follow her, you know, getting over this loss when she doesn't have anyone else because the family was very small. And so basically everybody in her family is gone and she's all alone. And she does love Christmas, but she now is scared, or like she's now gonna celebrate it alone, she thinks. Only with her boyfriend, Ricky. He is a jerk. I understand there are people who would like him, especially from the start. Very charming guy, sure. Not my type of guy. I'm not gonna go into why, but not my type of guy. So let's just go past it. He loses his job and he gets a job in Witsboro Bay. And that's where he grew up, that's where he had friends. So he wants to go there, but it's very far from where they are now. So he kind of tries to convince her to come with him and to open a chocolate shop there because she's a chocolatier and she works at this chocolate shop that her grandfather used to own. But she was like, no, I have a job here and I have the house here from the grandparents, and like she has stuff to do where they were in Hull. But one thing happens, another thing happens. She decides to go to Witsboro Bay to follow her boyfriend Ricky, and she opens a chocolate shop there. And Ricky starts to be a really crappy boyfriend now, and it takes her quite a long time to realize this or to really embrace it and not be scared to see the truth. Really is what's happening, because she does complain about him a lot, she does argue with him a lot, but she's still holding on to him because maybe she's just being difficult, or it's been a lot happening because he's in a lot of debt, and she's now opening the store, and it's just like lots of misunderstandings and lots of tension between them. And basically in the book we follow how this develops, and in the process of all this tension she also meets another guy called Matt, who is engaged to Libby, to his fiance, and he comes and helps her out with the shop a lot because he does work in the area, and his family kind of owns this kind of like services for the area, so he can do plumbing and I don't know, painting and all this kind of like manual labor stuff. And so he does help her a lot with the chocolate shop, and there is some kind of connection between them, but since he is engaged, she has a boyfriend, they never act on anything, they just are friends. And basically we follow this story, and I really enjoyed this one. It wasn't a 5-star. I thought there were some things that I would have preferred done more, or like, for example, I wish we would have spent more time in the chocolate shop itself, because I love how this author describes these things, like descriptions of the surroundings and of the places. She's brilliant at it, especially the Christmas ones. Love it. I really wished we would spend more time with that, but unfortunately not in this book. But it was still a lot of fun, still great. It was cute, it was very cozy. I really enjoyed it. I didn't like the ending. Well, I did like the ending, but I felt it was too hurried. So if it was, for example, like 1 year later and they would be celebrating like another Christmas or something, and then these things would happen, that would make sense, and I would be like, okay, I can buy that. But how fast it happened all here, I didn't buy it. I hated it, so that took a star away from the rating. But otherwise, I really enjoyed this book, so I gave it, I think, 3.5 or 4 stars, somewhere in between. The last book I read in December was Everything Is Not Enough by Lola Akinade-Okestrom. And this is the second book, or this is kind of like the sequel to In Every Mirror She's Black. And this is a book set in Stockholm, following 3 black women moving to Stockholm, and follows their life and how they accommodate in Stockholm and everything. And I think I talked about this in a different video, so I will link it down below if you would like to check that out as well, because I did not like it at all. I'm not gonna go into it again, but this book was even worse, because in the first one it felt just like, yes, these women are just struggling with moving to Stockholm, but in this book they're already in Stockholm for about 2 years, and they still feel the same. They are even more arrogant, they are even more selfish, they make horrible decisions for which I'm supposed to feel sorry about. They're like 30-year-old women, or 25, 30 something year old women, and they make horrible decisions, and I'm like, girl, that's on you. It's not the society's fault because they are white and you are black. It's on you. But I don't know, I just hated this one so much, because lots of things that were happening in this book were either the women being absolutely naive and arrogant and thinking that there are no consequences, and when there are consequences, they are outraged, and it is because they are black that there are consequences, not because they did something wrong. Anyway, yeah, and this book makes such little little attacks on how the white society in Stockholm hates black people that simply are not true. Or, I mean, I'm not black, so I can't speak to that extent. I can speak on the fact that I am immigrant. So some of these things did happen to me as well. And some of the things that do happen are not because I'm an immigrant or not because they are black. It's just the way the society in Stockholm works. And that's fine. You know, you can come and accept the way the society works, even though it's not what you know, even though it might have been considered, you know, a little, not offensive, but unpolite in place where you are from. But you come to a new country, to a different society, you need to learn how they work. And it doesn't mean that they are rude, it's just how they work. So you need to learn this when you go someplace else. Anyway, one of the examples is there is this scene where we are in a hospital and there is a white man and a black woman sitting in the hospital room, without going into further details. And a doctor comes, and the doctor starts talking to the white man and like introducing himself. I'm the doctor, blah 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 blah. And he says, well, I'm just here as a friend. She, and points to the black woman, is next of kin. You should talk to her. And the doctor is shocked. I'm like, I don't think that will happen. But let's give it a break that there is so much sexism in Stockholm. Okay, yeah, okay. So he goes to the woman and he starts speaking English to her. And she replies fluently back in Swedish. So she's so offended because he automatically switched to English just because she's black. I wanna say, this wouldn't happen because I've been in Stockholm for 6 years. Anytime I go to a doctor and I ask if they can speak English to me, it's a problem. They never speak English to me. In the entire time I've been here, only 2 doctors had no problem with speaking English to me, and even one of them, it was very broken English. And the other one was fluent. But other times, no, they do not speak English to me, and absolutely not. It does not happen, and I cannot believe that this would be automatic reaction from someone. Like, I just see a black person and I would speak English to them. That does not happen because there is so many non-white people in Stockholm. Unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable that this would happen. It would not happen. And it's just little things like this, just little attacks on how white the society in Stockholm is, as if it was shocking. It's a white country, originally white country. There were no black slaves here or nothing like that. Why is it shocking that there are majority white people here? It is just... Anyway, I really hated this book. It does not represent how Sweden works or how Stockholm society treats people of color. Absolutely not. And it's just, I don't know, it's ridiculous. I really hated this book. I will not read another one by this author. But anyway, that was all the books I read in December. It was pretty good month, even though I read 4 books that I enjoyed and 3 books that I despised. So it was kind of like very, balanced month, I would say. I really enjoyed it, actually. Even the books I hated, it was kind of fun to hate read them. So that is all for this video. If you read any of these and would like to discuss more, let me know down in the comments. But otherwise, yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!